Hey, it's Roy. So we're going to continue on with the peace and love being a unicorn. And what I want to focus on is in this video, let's talk about peace for a second. And I want to be able to give you a good example on how you can make it reality. So let's look at peace here. So if you're looking at peace and you're thinking about it, what does it look like? So we have a lot of visual references of what that looks like. Maybe it could be non-fighting, it could be the peace symbol, it could be the two fingers, whatever you have as a representation for that. Let's put it over here where it goes to the mind. All right. So now you have a stimuli, you have a reference point. You're creating a belief system in your world. And it must match that. So until there's no war, then there's no peace. If the baby's not crying, then there's peace. If you really look at something, it's like peace, for most people, it's sort of like being quiet. Not a lot of clashing. Not a lot of noise, if that makes sense. Frustration, friction, is just sort of like a calm space. Instead of saying you want peace, how about you break that information down? Okay? So it's like, oh, well, the visual of peace is the peace symbol, two fingers on a hand, okay? 70s, whatever you have as your reference, okay? No war, that's a gun. All right. So you have these visual references, but you got to take that from the visual to what is the feeling? What are you actually looking for? What feeling are you seeking? Okay, what feeling are you really calling peace? You got to break it down. Why? Because everything that we do is about categorizing information. You're categorizing something that shouldn't be categorized, which makes it the unicorn. You're trying to bottle something that's just a reference, but you're trying to make it something that's physical or real. Peace is a reference, but we made it into something, or we're trying to obtain it, and it's not possible, okay? It's not obtainable. It's just a reference for something, but we keep trying to make it physical. So, what are you really asking for? Is it quiet? Solitude, serenity? Like, what are you really looking for when you're using this terminology of peace? Okay, what does that really mean for you? And where have you referenced it in a way that's not working for you, that's working against you? And so if you keep looking at peace as this, then when you come down to quiet, then you have all these things in the way. All right. Now here's the thing. Most of these feelings or emotions or experiences, because failure is not an experience, it's an experience, it's not a feeling. Okay. Failure is not a feeling. Anger is not really one either. Frustration, that's not one also. And the reason why I say that is because if you say, what's going on? Well, I'm angry. Okay. Are you okay? I'm frustrated. I failed. And you're like, okay. So you see, it's like we use it as a reference, but again, that's not a feeling. So under that, under anger is a feeling. Okay. Under frustration is the real feeling. And usually when you feel these intense responses to certain things, you're protecting something. Anger is a form of protection. People who tend to be really, really angry a lot are really wounded. It's almost like a dog. You know, like when a dog is cut or wounded, it will yip at you, it will snip at you when you try to go touch it. So usually anger is a form of protection of something, an intensity of protection around a wound that person is very wounded about. So if you are really a mad person, then you're fucking wounded as hell. Excuse my language. Okay, you're very wounded. It's okay, is what it is. But how do you go through the wound so that it can mend? You've got to go underneath the anger. If you go past it, okay, re-referencing these things, because this is the false reference of peace. When you want to ask for solitude and quiet or serenity, that's more what you're really asking for. Because that's something that can be created tangibly. That's an atmosphere that can be designed. When you become very clear, when you reorient this, oh, what does that look like? Oh, it looks like this. This is the reason why I put the eyes here. Because now I'm looking for solitude. I'm looking for serenity. I'm looking for quiet. Okay, I would like quiet in my life. I would like solitude. I would love serenity. Now, how do these things here connect to these here? Through this, you will connect to the serenity. You will. Okay? Through this, you will connect to all those things that you keep trying to have and experience in your life. But you must take yourself past these different layers of false feelings. Okay? Because underneath these things, all these experiences are the real feelings. And so you've got to allow yourself to ask, what am I asking for here? What does that look like for me to have solitude? What does that look like for me to have quiet? Have a quiet space, a quiet home, a quiet life. What does that look like for me? Okay. Now, as we keep kind of delving into this, and as I'm talking, the energy's kind of sinking in, it's kind of taking it further. We want to disrupt these references that you have in your mind that has been ingrained for what you keep seeing things to be. You've got to get out of the illusions, folks. You have to. That's what keeps me in a place of centeredness. I'm not caught up in the illusion and delusion of the fantasy about this information. Intelligence is there. Intuition does not have to be woo-woo. Intuition is practical. And when you can harness that energy, when you bring it into you, then you're able to express it like I am now. I'm being magical. I'm being mystical. I'm being all of those things. But it's coming out totally different. That's because I'm not taking it to a place that people can't get to or that I can't get to. Because where I'm speaking from, I'm living this, which is why it's so grounded. Most people who try to ground connection or ground intelligence or ground source, they don't even know what they're grounding, but they're trying to reach around these things. They're trying to drop their humanity. When you drop your humanity, you close yourself off from this, from your heart, from that heart space. Heart for me is humility, experience, authenticity, recognition, and trust. That's what heart is. Heart sequence is something that I've created. Something that I facilitate. It's what I'm doing right now, actually. Okay? So it's like when you harness heart, which is this, then you're going to have this. But when you harness it, it bypasses this. It bypasses the illusions and delusions of grandeur and what this stuff is like, what's being shown to us in pictures and on Facebook and TV. It's like all of that stuff is keeping you out of your life. There's nothing wrong with it, but you have to realize what you see is not what's for you. And we get in this cycle where we keep going to what's been referenced to us, and then we try to mimic it And when you mimic it, you stay here. You only stay in frustration and depression and frustration and depression and unhappiness and lack and frustration and depression. It's a cycle when you stay locked into this, in the ideals. This is why you're getting angry. This is why you can't push through it. And when you do push through it, it's only a little bit. And then you get sucked back in because the illusion and delusion is so powerful. Through it, through this, it's what you want. Through these things is the quiet, is the serenity, is the solitude. It's ultimately those little small pieces. And think about it, peace is a large picture. But these little small pieces will connect into one, and they will give you that sense of peace in the midst of the chaos. You don't want chaos to go. Chaos will never leave. It's a part of the program. Okay? It's a part of the formula. It's here. But when you allow yourself to ride the wave of chaos, you step into creation. You step into possibility. And yes, for most people, those words seem far out there, but when you begin to live in this, and when you allow yourself to go through these things, because they're a part of the formula too. You can't take them out. You have a bland recipe. So when you stop trying to throw out the ingredients and you allow the ingredients to become part of the recipe, then it tastes phenomenal. We're going to go to part 2 and we're going to talk about love next. I hope this gave you some insight. Talk to you soon.